Last week, I discussed the importance of having multiple income streams for your small business. This is something that I learned very quickly in my business journey. If that is something that you are thinking about incorporating into your business, definitely give that one a listen, guys. Now, in this week's episode, I'll be interviewing Lynn from L&J Goods. And you guys might know Lynn from her YouTube channel, where she's always creating the most amazing DIYs, or from her weekly lives where you guys are going to receive a ton of inspiration. I can't wait to dive into this interview.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrook.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrook. I want to thank you guys for joining me on my podcast. This is episode 23. I'm having so much fun interviewing and talking all things business, and I'm hoping you guys have been inspired about all the guests that I've been having on and talking all things business. Now, in today's episode, I'm interviewing Lynn from L&J Goods, and I am so excited to get this interview started. I first discovered Lynn when I was watching Debbie Beard's video. It was a retreat that Debbie was hosting or putting on, and I think she was teaching them about video production, and Lynn was there learning all the things. The moment I saw her interview on Debbie's video, I just went out and started binge watching her videos. When I was pulling together a lineup for my Vintage Soul Creative Retreat, I knew right away, guys, that I wanted to ask Lynn to be one of the creators. So let's go ahead and give Lynn a big welcome. Let me bring her on here. Okay. Hi, Lynn. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So exciting. I was so excited when you agreed to be on the podcast. So, Anne agreed to be part of the creative retreat. I'm really excited for that. And that we could make everything work so that you could attend, because it sounds like you're pretty busy that weekend.
There's always a lot going on. You know how that is.
Right. Absolutely.
Talking about juggling all of the things, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you are attending my retreat, and then are you like flying off and going to another retreat right after?
Actually, those plans changed. I truly recognize that, okay, I need to settle myself down here. So we actually rescheduled that other retreat. So I'm in no rush to leave Wisconsin.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's news to me, guys. So well, that's great, because I was thinking, okay, we scheduled you early on that day. Yeah.
That's
awesome.
good. That's good. Oh, I'm just excited to be able to hang out for the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes, I know. And the creative retreat, it's actually a 2-part event. So I don't know if you know that, but there's going to be vendors in the barn. And so then I'm going to have like a project piece in there. So I know all the creatives can't be, in the retreat portion all the time. So a few of the creatives are going to go up to the barn and be working on the creative piece. Yeah, so it's going to be kind of fun. It's going to be like a little rotation. So
I think so. Yeah. Great.
So for my viewers and listeners who haven't had the opportunity to have found you, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, okay. Isn't it interesting that when we're asked to talk about ourselves, even though we're out there, it's so, it's very hard, because I think a lot of us creatives are a little bit of an introvert, right? In real life, But my name is Lynn, and my husband and I started our business. We started our business long before we had our brick and mortar shop.
Okay.
So we have always loved picking, thrifting, makeovers, doing stuff over. My kids always joke that they never knew which chair was safe to sit in when they brought things over, because they're a little rickety.
That is awesome because I can totally relate with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. So, I mean, we've just always loved that. I've loved the idea of repurposing, and it's not my first rodeo as far as of creating. Like
Yeah.
most of us, we've done all the things. I've taught toll painting and rose mauling, and I've taught knitting, and I've just done it all. So, but yeah, I started. I always had a job, but then there was always that other little gig that
Yeah.
I had going on because I just couldn't help myself, So
I know.
yeah,
It's just like our inner creative always
yeah,
wants to come
yeah,
out. So,
yeah.
I
I
know my husband's always like, "What new hobby are you gonna try now?" Like, "What new thing?" Because 'Cause I'm always wanting to learn new things. So that's
Oh, for
yes.
sure. Well, we started out, well, I would say I started out, my husband had a landscaping business, and and so I helped him with all the gardening planning, and so we had beautiful gardens and hosted lots of garden clubs, and then I started making dolls, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I was one of those that was out at like 4 a.m. At the flea markets looking for antique textiles. And we would go and take corbels off of houses. And, that was when we could get a truckload of them for like $10. So I made these incredible dolls that I used all antique textiles, and we made angel wings out of the corbels, and they were just massive and wonderful. And so I traveled all over and sold those dolls. And I had a line that I did that were a little more um, uh, for those people who couldn't afford those big
Right.
guys. So that's really where I started my buying and selling.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my friend Kristen said, "Did you she was talking about how you must have been interviewed for something else, and then she's like, "You're gonna have to find out how she started." So I'm wondering if this is what you talked about possibly in the
Maybe that could be, yes,
okay.
but and I always I started like right in our house too. Even before I did those bigger like retail shows or very specialized
Yeah.
markets, that was back in the day when, oh my goodness, there were just such incredible vintage markets. Well, there still are good vintage markets, but that was kind of like way back in the
Yeah.
beginning, and so but yeah, I would set up like a little, Christmas walkthrough in my home, and people would find out about it word of mouth, and then they'd write down their name on the list, and then I would let them know when we were doing it again. So I would do
Right.
these little open houses and stage, like the front part of my house, and people would come and they would buy what I had there,
Right.
and so yeah, that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, is it the same house that you live in now?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
So we're JR and I are in our third home.
Okay.
So we've called the big house, which is closer to where the shop is in town. And when all the kids were gone and married and off to college and all of that, we bought another house that put me closer to my job.
Okay.
And JR was going through like a pretty significant health situation at that time. And so we needed to be closer to the people that were caring for him. And so we moved probably about 20 miles away. And so I worked full time. And then it was like this nagging thing, like, we were still like, had moved into furniture at that time, and
Mhm.
we were still collecting vintage, and my basement got so full that, like I got to have a place we have to have an outlet for this other
Yes.
than these markets that I was doing then. And so we commissioned our furniture, we did commission pieces, and then we also had them in a couple of shops and I'm telling you, we were we were painting so much furniture. at that time. It was huge. And then the lady, and she was so good to us. She was wonderful to us. The shop owner said she needed to raise her share of the commission. And so we started looking at it, and then we were thinking, wait a minute. Why don't we try to do this ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so we did. I mean, I'm 65 now. I was in my early 50s when we decided to try retail, and we shared a space with somebody that didn't pan out as well as I would have liked it.
Right.
And I had a little booth. I had a booth in our town, and we took everything in. I got everything all set up and displayed. And the owner of the co-op came over and basically marched me right out the door. We call it the walk of shame, because the last thing that we need in here is stuff that you pick up at a garage sale.
Oh my gosh. No way.
No way. Yeah. And I laughed, and I can remember my daughter saying, they have no idea. They have no idea what they're doing right now with you. So it's like, that's okay. And we ended up, we had someone, a person who owned a little building in town, and they had only partially restored it. And it's actually right next door to our shop. And so they approached us, and they had seen our things, and said, you know what, you need your own space. We have a space. And if you're willing to put in the work, and we'll pay for the wiring, anything you need. You just have to put in the work to make it how you want it, as far as. And so we moved into that space, and we were there for 6 years. And I was driving 45 minutes to work, and then an hour and 15 minutes into Medina every day.
Okay. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And just getting that shop ready, and then prepping it, like furniture, doing all the things that we do, because my husband, wise as he is, and we knew, I mean, at our ages, the last thing we wanted to do was like totally go into debt over this. It was not going to happen on his watch. And so we started that business with $500. I am not kidding you, $500. Wow. And we worked our butts off. And I continued to work. I said, okay, we got to make this 3 years. And if it's okay, I always knew that I could go back to my other job. But I said, if it doesn't work, I'll go back to work. And after about a year and a half, we were just like, something's got to give here, because the little retail business was doing great. And I was exhausted, because I was still back and forth during the week. And then on the weekends, I was working at the shop. So it was crazy busy time. But that was a leap of faith. We said, okay, I gave my notice. And when I was able to focus completely on that business, it grew even more. So it was good. It was quite a journey.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yes. Well, and it like the story that you're telling, it reminds me so much of myself, because I had my full-time job still. And then I weaned it down to, I went part-time. And then last May, it was a leap of faith too, but I knew in my heart that if I wanted to take my business to the next level, I had to leave, because it was just too much going back and forth. I would have to like, okay, today is like work, like real work, what I called it, the real job,
Real job. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, I have to focus there. And then all of a sudden like the next day I'm like, okay, I got to get back into the sonnet mode. And, and it was just, it's a lot of back and forth. And
well, and I'll tell you, and it was a test of faith. I will say that absolutely 100%. JR by this time had gotten to a place where he sold the landscaping business. He sold that business. And he'd always been self-employed. The jobs, I gave up our health insurance. I gave up all of that to do L&J Goods. And so it was like, okay, this has got to work. Otherwise I'm going back to my real job. Right.
I know. I'm like, now this is our real job. So.
I know, right? And I laugh because so many people will say over the years, oh, it must be so nice in your retirement to do what you really love to do. I'm like, retirement? There's no way. Like, I gotta work this job. I don't have a retirement.
No, that's funny too, because when I did that in May, a bunch of my husband's friends would say to me, "So how does it feel to be retired?" I'm like, "Retired? I just left that job so I could do my business." I'm like,
and honestly, I've worked harder than I've ever worked in my life.
Me too.
When we decided we were going to do this little shop.
Mm-hmm.
Hard work. Yeah.
But it's fun. Or I think it's fun.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
There are moments where,
there are moments, and particularly, I mean, I'm assuming you just do, it's you, right?
Yep. I'm a solopreneur.
And for us, it's a husband and wife. And then my daughter came on board and she's full-time. So, it's a family dynamic, and it has offered us an incredible opportunity to grow together.
Yeah. Oh, I can just imagine.
Yeah, but we all need each other, and we all offer a completely different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And they have helped to shape and mold me in ways that I never could have done on my own. So it's been really amazing to see how that happened. But when people would pop in over the years, oh, I want to start a store just like this, and it's like, well, I want to do it with my sister, or my husband and I want to. I'm like, well, number one, you got to love your sister more than you love business, and you got to love your husband more than you love business. That's it. Because, if you can do that, then you can work out anything, Right.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking about if you were still in the same house, because you talk about your current home being the cottage, and it just looks so cozy and just, tiny, just like that has that cozy feel to it when you show different things. So
on it, that is actually the cottage was part of the whole business, the formation of our business as well.
Okay.
So when we decided that we were going to do this, we had to have a plan in mind, and we said, we have always wanted to have a little cottage on the lake that we could, vintage cottage that we could renovate, and we wanted to live mortgage free. And so we sold the second house, paid cash for this one, lived in we lived in a shed, an Amish built shed, from May to October, while we completely gutted the cottage from the ceiling down to the dirt underneath. Wow. And there was a working toilet inside, and everything else we did out of that little shed. And we went to the state park down the road to shower. It was, it's so romantic. Doesn't it sound so romantic?
Oh my word.
But
what you do though, you know what I mean? It's just like what you do to try to, it's just funny. And I always think it's only for a little while, right? So
exactly. And again, it was just an opportunity for growth, and we're not shy of hard work for sure. And so it's good. It all worked out, and now we live in this wonderful little place, and we have a lot less real estate that we have to deal with here, and a lot less stuff, and it's good. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I recently saw your post that the cottage is being featured in a national magazine. I know we can't talk about which one. I mean, that is super exciting. So how did that all come about? Did somebody approach you
Mhm,
or
mhm.
oh,
Yeah, yeah, we had done a couple of other features. Well, one was in the Turquoise Iris
okay.
Journal, you know, which is a very specialized art magazine. So she interviewed me about the business and, you know, did all of that. And then Jeanne d'Arc Living, which is an international magazine, also featured our little cottage. In an article
Okay.
last summer.
Awesome.
So then we had a team contact us regarding coming out, and they've come out to scout, and then they contacted us a few weeks later to say that this particular magazine did want to have them come and photograph for a feature next summer.
Oh,
So
next summer.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So I've been seeing like one of the questions was what color should you paint your door? Did you paint the front door a different color?
I did. Do you want me to tell you what I did?
Yes. What did you do?
Fusion Winchester.
Oh,
Totally unexpected.
because that wasn't even one of the colors I don't think that you even
It
mentioned.
was not. I was like, I want to do a pink door so badly. And then, you know, and JR was like, no, pink door, blah, blah, you know. And and so I don't know, we were kind of I brought a bunch of samples home,
Yeah.
and the next morning after we had discussed this, he said, "Okay, here's my pick." And he said, "We'll try peony, we'll
Okay.
try rosewater, Winchester, and azure."
Okay.
And so we had those 4 colors. I brought home big samples, and then we immediately knew the pinks had to go
Okay.
because from a distance, they just
Yeah.
look white, you know?
Right.
And so I chose Winchester because it has kind of more raspberry-ish undertones.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you what, Sonnet, it's so unexpected and it's so rich. I cannot wait to photograph like the
Oh,
whole thing.
yeah.
So,
Awesome.
and I think it's a good color that transitions through all the seasons too.
Mhm.
So,
I know it's like picking that front door color is so
right?
it's
I
so
know.
hard and it's like the first thing people see and
I know, I know. Oh my goodness. Well, people had a lot
oh,
of opinions about that, let me tell
I
you.
I know. I actually like I saw the post and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I started reading and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's like 300 and some comments."
I know.
I was like, "Holy shnikes."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's a lot. And you're right. It's so funny you ask somebody or your viewers a question and sometimes they give their opinion. So,
Well, and you know something? There's nothing wrong with that,
mhm,
right? Every now
no,
and then something pops up that was like, "Hey, I wouldn't have thought of that," you know?
right.
So,
Yeah. I know
anyway.
I sometimes well, on my lives, I used to do it on every single one, but, I always take one live and I have a vision or an idea of what I'm gonna do on this project or upcycle, but then I, like, get them involved and ask them, and sometimes they get really like, "No, don't paint that, do this," and I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute, it is still my project."
I know, and then you're like, "Actually, I'm gonna paint it whatever color I want to anyway."
I know. I still feel bad because I have this basket and everyone wanted me not to paint the handle of this basket. And then I really wanted to paint it. So it is still sitting on like the unfinished project because they didn't want it was like a big majority of them did not want me to paint it, but I
Mhm.
really want to paint it. And then there is a couple people that said, "You guys, she's gonna paint it,
Yeah,
later on."
yeah.
But I
Oh
almost
my
feel guilty
goodness.
because I said I wouldn't. So but yes. Oh, I love that. So
Yeah.
next summer it's going to be in there. So when do they officially come out and start taking
You
photos?
know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point. They are when are they coming to
Yep.
photograph?
Yep.
Oh, next week.
Oh, wow. Girl, and you're on here with me. I would be
Yeah.
like,
And JR and I leave tomorrow or Saturday morning early. We're going away for till Tuesday for a big picking trip.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
but
Oh my gosh.
things have come along. I mean, everything looks great.
Okay.
He has really concentrated this summer on like doing a lot of the finishing detail, like all the trim work and all of that. And I'll say we have, we're scavengers. We don't want to have to go to Home Depot and buy molding. We have been collecting and gathering salvaged trim and all of that stuff for years. Awesome. Until we got what we needed to be able to finish this. So once this push is done, we still have the laundry room to do, and we have a kitchen countertop. We just ran out of time to do the kitchen countertop, but
that's okay. No one's gonna notice.
Nobody will notice.
Nobody will notice. Only you.
I've heard that they do a lot of photoshopping.
Oh, do they? I didn't hear that, but that's awesome.
So if you see a massive bucket of flowers on our island, know that that's typically not the way that I live. Right?
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Oh, so it's interesting that you're talking about, your home and how you guys have like DIY'd it all yourself. And so my home, I actually had bought when I was like 19 years old, and I initially at 19 renovated it. My dad helped me a little bit here and there, and we like gutted it. And my little brother, he was little back then, we're like still in high school, and helped me with it. And then now I am starting because now I'm much older. But I met my, husband, and we got married, and we live here now together in this house that I had found. And it's just like a little Cape Cod. And now my vision is to redo it or add more, because like back then I was 19, if you think about it.
Yeah.
My style was so different. And now I've been adding little cozy touches or little like vintage touches, but I'm thinking about doing that in the upstairs, just like kind of like gutting it and adding all the real fun stuff,
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's an ambitious project when you're 19 years old. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I just remember I said to my mom and dad, I want to buy a house. And this is really, really funny because my aunt knew the lady who had lived here, and she had just passed away, and she had 3 children, and they wanted to sell it real quick. They wanted it, all of them just wanted $25,000 each. So I ended up getting it for $75,000, the house. And it was like a steal. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And and it's got a huge yard. And so I've done a lot, but it was just, I don't know. I'm like, it was definitely a gutter, I ripped up the carpet and there were hardwood floors. So I redid those, but I know. Yeah, it was a huge undertaking, but I had so much fun doing it, and I learned a lot.
When we bought the cottage, oh my gosh, we were looking at pictures the other day. Like, what were we thinking when we bought this place? It was for less than the cost of a used car.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
It was good. But we've put a lot of love and a lot of work into it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and back then too, if you think about it, you could never find even a house in this area for even touching that, but it was funny because when I went through it, I was like, at 19, I didn't see the full vision that my mom had my mom's a really good salesperson, by the way. And so she really sold me on the whole idea. And I'm so glad she did. So
that'll help you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And she's like, well, envision, she goes, I bet you there's hardwood floors under here. And then she pulled it up and I'm like, oh, there are. Okay. Cause I was seeing the old, dingy carpet and
probably shaggy.
Yeah.
Right.
It was horrible. And yeah. So, but yeah, she definitely allowed me to see that. So it was great.
I do have a video on YouTube. I have several cottage tour videos, but there's one, if you go way back, kind of shares just a little brief story of how we got the cottage. You can see a lot of the befores. in there. So it's it's kind of interesting to
that I wish I would have had a lot of befores, because at 19, like I wasn't thinking like, oh, I better take photos,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, but that's awesome. I'll have to check that out. Definitely. Oh,
Mhm.
so we talked a lot about, like how you kind of got started, but like how I want to know, because it's funny when I first started watching you, even though I knew your name was Lynn, I would always call you Ellen.
Everybody wants to know.
I know, and I'm just like, how did it I mean,
Oh my
is
gosh.
it somebody you know, or you just said
No.
Ellen
In
J.
fact,
Good?
I'll tell you something really funny. This morning, I ran into town. Usually I work from home on Thursdays, but I ran in to grab a few things, and Megan called me and said, "Mom, you need to get here. There's somebody here from New Hampshire to see you. She's a great follower of ours," and blah, 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 blah. And so we got there. Her husband was with her, and her husband was just like, "So if your name is Lynn, where did Ellen J. Goods come from?"
I know.
So here it is. Here's the story.
Okay.
L for Lynn, J for JR.
Okay.
Just say it. Ellen J.
Okay.
All right. A little play
Yes.
on words. We did that because we didn't know you when you go into business like this, you're always having to transition and do what you need to do to stay ahead of the game,
Yep.
to let certain things go. You're always shifting. It's those multiple income streams, right? And
Right.
sometimes some of them
Yes.
have to become more the focus than other. And
Correct.
so we knew that if we had to choose a name that didn't specifically identify us as a vintage or antique store or shabby or any, that kind of thing. So we just said, hey, we could be a bakery. We could be, we could sell used cars. we could do it, with that business name. Ellen J. Goods could be anything that we wanted it to be. And that has been true as our business has had to transition over time, and as we have grown or made changes to the shop, or how we do our business. So that name has just stuck with us, and it still represents, I think, that passion for creativity and vintage and antique decor and makeover and do it yourself. So whether I have a store full of finished furniture, or if I have iron orchid designs and fusion mineral paint and DIY paint, it all represents that same passion that we have for those things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that same brilliant idea for my name. Because when I first started my business, talking about pivoting, I actually decided to go back to school and do landscape design, because I was a master gardener and I loved gardening, and I was going to create landscape designs. And I went and I got my, degree to do that. And I had so much fun doing it for so long. And
Yeah.
then when my mom opened up she had a shop in downtown,
Okay.
she asked me to, "You want to do this with me? You could have your landscape design business here." And really, I'm like, I had a website, I had a good clientele going on, but then I'm like, I said yes, but then I'm like, I have a storefront and I don't really have anything to physically sell. I don't really need a storefront to do what I'm doing. So then I'm like, well, I better get some stuff to sell. So then I started repurposing, which I love thrifting too.
Oh,
And yeah, and so that's how that all came about. But then all of a sudden I'm like, I loved doing that so much more than my landscape design, that I just stopped doing design and I just totally pivoted and changed my business model. And then I'm like, I can't really, everybody knows me for Sonnet's Garden Blooms. So I'm like, well, I'm going to just go with it and roll with
it's
it,
okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
speaking of thrifting, you are a lucky duck to have those Goodwill bins. We are so rural here.
Okay.
And like the nearest kind of major thrift stores and stuff are a good 45 minutes, an hour away from us. There is a local, like a church thrift store, which is really nice. But when I watch your videos with your Goodwill hauls, and I'm like, oh, I want that. But when I had my other real job, I would go every lunch break, I would just zip to all of the thrift stores. So I was just so close, but I can't do that anymore. I have to plan my thrifting trips.
Oh, I know. And if I could go every day, I would. It's so good. I mean, like, but I just don't have enough time. So I've been trying to do just once a week, but yeah.
And then you got to do something with all that stuff.
Oh my gosh,
right?
I know.
Oh.
Right. Yes. So, and like, juggling all the things, and it's a lot. And like, I'm like, okay, so I did my video, I have to edit my video. And then I now have to, and I have, well, you have your store, and I still, I have vendor booths. So I have 3 of them, and then I stock those all up, and it's just like finding the time for everything. So
that's time consuming too. It's gotta be, and restaging everything. And cause if you sell one piece, you have to like redo everything, right?
I know. So I'm in Minnesota last weekend? For a 5-day softball tournament for my daughter, and I get a little ding on my phone, and I'm like, oh my Lord. I mean, I was very happy, but I sold like 2 huge pieces of furniture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can just imagine what my booth looks like right now.
Yeah, that just happened to me this week. A dresser and a big buffet. And then they also bought like 2 chairs with a table. And it's like, oh my word. And I've got so many unfinished pieces, and we're going away, and oh boy. Well, anyway.
In summer, summer in general is just.
Yep. Those J months are.
I know, right?
Can be stinky, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I got back, and then I walked into my booth, and I went, oh my Lord. Like, they put everything into a pile on the floor. And I am like, oh my Lord. And so one of the store managers sometimes will go in there and try to like arrange it a little bit, but it was just like all sitting there. I'm like, well, that's why the sales kind of went, like the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Yeah. So now I have to quick skedaddle and get, like, first of all, I had to catch up from being gone. And then now I have to paint some stuff.
Well, and don't you find too, when you are, like, even though we own our own business and we're, we schedule ourselves, whatever, I think about when I go away, right? When you have to be away, it's like you have to plan ahead.
Yes.
Content, stuff, all of that ahead. And then you got to play a major catch up when you get back too. Right. So it's really like you're just never really away.
I know.
It's hard.
It is
hard work.
It's
hard work, people. This is not a business for sissies. It really isn't. And it doesn't just magically happen. It's hard work.
I know. It is.
And commitment and consistency and all of that. And time management. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And
there is. Yes. And time management is so huge. Believe me, like, there are times where I'm starting a project, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I get these like squirrel moments where all of a sudden I'm like, I really want to go do that. I'm like, focus on it. Like, I'm trying to like, just, you have to finish doing this one task.
I know. But you know what? Here's the interesting thing though. Now, so my husband is very much like, he's more analytical, and process, like, project oriented, and And so he'll be like, I don't know why you don't just like start one piece and then finish it. And it's like, because there's drying time and I have 5 more things that I have to do. So, and you have to make the most of every minute of your time. And I mean, he could argue with me that it doesn't save time, but I like to tell myself that it does. And then there's that great satisfaction when you get everything finished all at once or within a short period of time. It's like, wow, that's great. Now it might be a month later, but
right. No, absolutely. I understand.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have that. That's the part of being a creative. Yep.
I know. And I have been really trying to like time block and like really set time for everything. And you are so very fortunate though to have like 2 helpers.
You know, and I have to tell you, Megan is the time manager. She is so good at that. And I always tell her she's taken over the role as mom. Because she bosses me around. She really does. She tells me what to do. But it was literally, I was kind of at the end of my rope at one point several years ago. And she was literally like sat us down and it's just like, listen, you need to take a day off.
Right.
And we're going to get the calendar out and we're going to work it out. And you have to take a day off. And I was just like, but she's like, Mom, no, there's no way around this. And so that was probably about 3 years ago when I actually started taking 1 day off a week. Before that, I would work 7 days a week, you know?
Oh.
And yeah, that's not good.
It's not
good for the family. It's not good for your own mental health. And so I enjoy my days off now.
Yeah. No, I know like when I go thrifting, that's kind of like my day off. And then we do go up to the cabin though. We have our cabin up north and am I still thinking about stuff here and there? Yes.
Of course.
And I'm still like, you know, making a post here and there and stuff, but it's still, it's like I'm away from, you know, the grind of it. So I totally understand.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I know my one friend too, she's like, you have to do self-care, Sonnet. You have to start taking care of yourself. I'm like, I do take care of myself. But, you know, it's hard being a small business owner in general, just because
I know.
Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, if this doesn't get done, it's because of me, you know, like it's not because
I know, you know, and it's interesting because now JR and I take a trip to the Adirondack Mountains every fall. Okay. And I so look forward to it. It's a wonderful time away for us, but we always have this conversation and he'll say, well, the thing is I just think that you should just not even have your phone available to deal with business. And Megan will be over here like, that's not going to happen.
No.
Now, JR, how about we compromise and we say, okay, Mom, you can do like any business part of things like for this hour of the day. JR, take the dog for a walk, go for a hike, and Mom, you do that. And then that's enough. Like you don't need to be on your phone. So, and I do try to adhere to that. So.
I do too, like up north, you know, like because I'm a very much an early bird. So I get up really early and I do a lot of the stuff right away before they get up over a cup of coffee, like checking my email. I just could not check emails and, you know, do those.
I need to get up earlier. I think I need to get up earlier. That's what I need to do too.
Okay. Don't take my advice of getting up as early as I do, because I do like I have like an inner alarm clock. Even on days that I say I'm going to sleep in, it's like my eyes just pop open. I'm like,
oh my goodness,
Sonnet, go back to sleep, but I can't.
I know. Oh dear.
So I have to ask, so like as your journey of like, you know, having your storefront, how did you end up on YouTube then? Is it because of going to Debbie Beard's class? Is that really what did it?
Mhm.
Okay, because that is how I really legit first found you. The funny thing is, I wanted to carry DIY paint. I loved it. My mom introduced me to it, and I was trying to find out information about it, and, like, I wanted to find out about the owner, and then finally, I was doing a bunch of investigating. It's much harder to figure this all out, by the way, when
Yeah.
you're, like, coming into it, and I stumbled upon Debbie, and then I stumbled upon that video, and I was like, you were there. I think Bree was there. I'm trying to remember all the
Bunch of us. Yeah, there were a bunch
Yes.
of us there for that first video boot camp.
Yeah.
I knew I had been doing YouTube videos, just like kind of starting, and then
Okay.
I went to boot camp. I learned so much there. And then like after that, I made a commitment like that, like, okay, for the next year, I am going to, we're going to do XYZ on YouTube. And I met that goal and
Okay.
exceeded it actually. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it all out. It's like Instagram. It's like any of the social media.
Mhm.
Yeah, trying to figure out those algorithms. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And anymore, I'm kind of feeling like, I'm just going to do what I do, I guess.
Right.
And
I know.
I,
The
I
algorithms, they just get to me too. So,
grief. It's so frustrating, right?
yeah. Because, like, a video that I'm like I, like, throw together, like, it's not the best work, okay? Like, I'll be like, "Oh god, this is not even my best work." Like, the
Right.
ones that I spend so much time on, they seem like they tank. And then the ones that I, like, throw together and then I'm like, "I don't even know what I'm gonna write for, like, my title," and I just like,
I know. I know.
and the next thing you know, like, that one all of a sudden, like, gets a ton of views, and I'm like, "Why?"
I know, seriously, it's so hard to figure out. And I think that just no matter what, it's just to be your authentic self there. It's, I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to start going to the dollar store and doing dollar store flips. And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. That is not me. It's
Yep.
not me. And it wouldn't be authentic. But boy, it's frustrating, isn't it? When you see, holy cow, these people like have like a quarter of a million subscribers, and they're literally going to the dollar store and making a cake stand out of 3 straws and a plastic strainer.
I know. And, like,
Who
honestly, that you
wants
said that
this?
about the dollar store, like, one time I did go to the dollar store and I
Yeah,
grabbed
of
some stuff and
course.
I tried to do a video and I was like, it literally killed me.
It's almost embarrassing, isn't it? Like, you just want to be like, oh, what am I thinking? I don't need to chase after this, right?
I know.
Or the other one are the ones that are and I confess, I follow a few of them where it's like, literally, they're just preparing breakfast.
Oh,
You don't see them. I'm gonna make breakfast this morning. I'm gonna
yeah,
scramble 2 eggs and I'm gonna make my toast.
right. My husband okay, so, like, yes, my
10,000
husband
views in 24 hours
I know.
in my
Yes.
dreams.
Yes. It's funny because there's I said to my husband, "Where did you find this guy?" It's literally like, I am driving up to my cabin, and you see him driving, and then he gets to the cabin, and I said, "Craig, you realize this guy does everything." I go, "He's gonna go over and he's gonna turn on his thermometer." And he goes over and does his turns it I go, "He does the same stuff every time. Like, why even watch another video? Because they're all
I
identical, but
know.
the guy has a ton of
I know.
I don't know. I'm like, who in the world is watching this stuff?" But they get the views, so I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm just so curious to see, I mean, I talked about like how we used to do so much furniture. And then, I mean, I kind of knew what was going to happen is that then everybody would be doing furniture. And so that market would definitely shift. And I thought, then I'll teach people how to paint the furniture and they'll buy their paint from me. Do you think the biggest kind of market or audience is in small decor? Or is it in furniture? anymore.
When I do a furniture flip, I barely get any views, and when
It's
I
not-
do my thrift to treasures, that's where I get all my views,
yeah,
and yeah, I and they love I I I think they live vicariously through me of, like, picking and stuff. They love it,
sure. Yeah.
like, seeing me pick the items, and then they like to know, like, what I'm doing with the item, and, because I always have a vision. If I'm gonna pick something, I better
Right.
have
Right.
some sort of idea.
Right.
Sometimes I see it and I feel sorry for it, and it ends up in my cart or accidentally ends up in my cart, but, for most part, I have an idea, but yes, and then they love seeing what I do with it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of work though. Like, I don't think I love doing videos, but I try to do, X amount of projects per video and drying time, like everything takes time when, like,
No. Yeah.
and like sometimes I have to sleep on it because I'm like, oh gosh, this is going so south right now. I'm like, I have to sleep
Right.
on it and figure out where I can,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. I always try to tell my viewers, like, this is what went wrong. This is how I'm pivoting my project and why I'm doing it.
Mhm.
And they like that too, because they're like, some of the people, they just act like they just do everything perfect. And at least you show us when you make a
You
mistake
know,
or,
something that I learned that way back when I started doing even workshops um, at our store.
Mhm.
And I think that that teacher part of me too is just like, look at, we want to be able to achieve a certain standard, of
Mhm.
course, I mean, but you also need to create for the pure joy of creating. And I have a few rules that I always push on people that, from 10 inches away, you're seeing everything, but you stand 10 feet away and you're not going to notice it.
Right.
And but just stop and think about the joy that you had in creating that. And
Mhm.
so it's I will say, I preach all the time, like, you don't have to be a perfectionist. I am a little bit of a perfectionist. I even want my imperfect stuff to look perfect.
Right.
But I want, but I also recognize that, and I want creatives and regular people too to recognize that, like, they can do it. If you have instruction, you can do it too. And
Mhm.
it may not turn out like the person next to you, and that's okay.
Right.
We all had fun putting paint on things when we were in 3rd grade, and we didn't care what it looked like. It was just fun to do. And
Mhm.
I love to just encourage people to, like, just call back to when being creative was fun for you, right?
Right.
Because
Yes.
it's all in us. We are all creative beings. It just
Yes.
comes out in different ways. And it's just such a joy to see, and I know for you too. And it's a joy to see people who think that they can't do it. Oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. I can't even hold a paintbrush. And then they do. And it's helping them to shift their perspective of what they're doing and what the outcome is. And reminding everyone that, that you had to learn how to ride a bicycle too, right?
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
first time you do something, it might not be okay. It might not be perfect. It might not be what you imagined it to be, but it's something.
Mhm.
The next time it's going to be better.
Right. That's so interesting because yes, like the one thing I can relate to so much is that I hear so often about the paint inlays. People love them, but they're so afraid of them. It's like take a little tiny paint inlay. You don't have to take the whole big piece.
No, no. And I encourage people, like, listen, reach out to me. I will send you a sample. I want you to
Right.
try this
Yeah.
because yes, it's very different. It is a different, and I love using them. I love using them. I love it's as much as I love using milk paint. It's a
Mhm.
little bit of that surprise element. It's that little bit of, like, what's going to happen. Like, it's not a guaranteed flawless finish, but that's what I love about it. That's what gives it character and just that organic, authentic kind of quality to it.
Yes.
But what's the worst that can happen? You paint over it, right? You paint over it. And the cool thing is, Josie and Sally have given us inlays that have so many small parts and pieces that, don't put an inlay. I just had this conversation with somebody who said, she emailed me, and I have this china cabinet, and I have a vision to do like decoupage in the back, and I want to do, milk paint and then this inlay. And I'm like, how about this? Like, if you've never used these things before, why don't we start with something really small?
Right.
First project, small. Let's just do that and get used to what the process is. But we all want to do the biggest, most impressive thing right away. And I know you've made mistakes on those big, impressive pieces, right? And like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And you repaint and we do that.
Right.
So
absolutely.
So don't be afraid. They're fun to do. They're not going to be perfect every time, but practice on something small.
I know. Absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I just like the number one thing when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, people are so afraid of, the paint inlays and or just trying something different and new. But yeah, start small.
I think, Sonnet, what it is, it's more they're afraid of failing.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. And I think they think they're gonna like ruin or like waste. Maybe they're afraid of wasting it too. But it's like take a little piece and like practice. So
yeah, and I get it. I don't want to minimize anybody's need to be conscientious about their budget or what they spend on supplies, of course. But any one of us would be happy to send a sample to somebody, right? If it would mean like let's just, I want you to just try it. Just try and let's see what happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I love all things IOD. I mean, oh my gosh.
From the beginning.
Honestly, I want to know the inspiration, like where they get their inspiration or where they get these ideas. It's just every release, I am like, can it get better? And it always does every release.
And I'm always honest with them too. I will email or text or whatever and say, okay, like I wasn't too sure about this one. I might have to get used to this. And then I end up falling in love with it. Like, okay, it's going to take me a minute, but I love it. Then I love it. So they have a very specific aesthetic. And I think creatives need to honor that. And if it's not a sea turtle, then you find that elsewhere, right? And so, we're quick to give lots of suggestions about what they should do, but I feel like they know what they're doing. And
absolutely.
And I'm sure they have their hits and misses, of course. That's just part of the creative process, but I totally trust their aesthetic. And the Rose Botanical transfer, come on.
Oh my gosh.
How many times have you used that? I have used that transfer so many times, and I'm not done with it yet. I want to use it more.
I know.
And I thought, you know what I thought? I thought, oh, the last thing we need is more roses.
Oh my word. Because I saw a couple comments, about that.
I'm sure.
And I'm like, I love roses. I love it. I love it.
Know. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot get enough of that transfer. I did a trash can yesterday with Rose Botanical on black, and it was turned out stunning. It was so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I will tell you, like when I love the release, but then I'm like, what am I going to do with this, the bows? And I was like, what? And then I've been seeing what people have been creating with it. And I'm like, it's flipping amazing.
I know. I was determined. when this release came out, and I know that, depending on what your business is, and people are creating for booths and creating product for those Christmas sales and stuff like that. And I have thoughts about that too, but so they want their holiday things early, right? So when this release came out, I'm like, all right, doggone it. You want holiday? I'm going to give you holiday from this summer release. And I just tried to think of every way that I could to use those bows, use the gilded transfers, to use all of those in ways that could be used for the holiday. Right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the gilded transfers. I actually thought more people would love them too. Like I thought I was going to sell out of those and I didn't. I was very surprised. I was actually kind of sad. So I'm hoping with the holidays that will be better.
Oh, oh my goodness.
They're so awesome.
They really are beautiful. They're beautiful.
I love them. I love all of them. Yeah, I love both of them. I like how they're so different, like each of the transfers. Like the other one is more like big scale. So yes, I think when the holiday release happens, maybe they'll pick up in sales too, because everybody will be feeling holiday-ish.
Yeah.
So
I think they're beautiful. And again, it's like a transfer, something new and different. There's a little bit of a different application technique, I think. So, that might scare people off a little bit, but.
Right. Well, and okay, so I didn't read this. Somebody said that there's like a type of, a product that you can use and then use the rest of the.
Oh, like for when you use gold leaf, like a gold leaf glue.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I haven't done that yet, but
I haven't either. So somebody mentioned that.
I figured like one step at a time.
I know. Right.
If they're not using the gilded transfers the way they are, they're not going to be using those leftover bits.
Right. I know. So what I did, because I didn't even know you
sell it.
Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, it's like a whole transfer. So I just actually took a scissors and I cut it around and I actually decoupaged it on another.
I loved that. That was the coolest thing that you did. And just all that little fussy cutting. And I liked that. I loved that piece that you did. Yes.
Yeah. So then after I did that, then I'm like, what? There's like a paste or a glue that you can do more?
Yep, there is. There sure is. Yeah,
I'm sure.
I'm working on an edited video now that's just kind of that gilded inlays, like from beginning, like the simplest process, like the simplest first steps to something more complicated. So I'm hoping I'll get that
How
done.
often do you put out videos?
Not often enough. I would like to I need to do more edited videos, and it's been such a crazy summer. It's been crazy. So, of course, I'm sure that's affected the algorithms. Right.
Absolutely.
I would rather spend my time working on a cute little mouse house cupboard with my granddaughters.
Oh my gosh, you are so funny. I love it. Well, so we're talking about the algorithms and your storefront, so if there is someone out there that wants to start their own storefront, do you have any, last minute, advice, for them other than love your family members if you're doing it with somebody?
Yeah, I think, avoid debt as much as you can. I think that, and I'm just looking at it like from my perspective, and I think most women, I will say generalizing, most women that come into this, it's kind of a second career for them. And so, I think you need to start small and work into it. Give yourself the opportunity to put your commitment, time, passion into it and see if it works for you. Give yourself an out if you need it. It's when we started, like we didn't start out buying IOD and buying Fusion Mineral Paint and buying all the things and all the market things. It was like there were months that it was JR would say, okay, Lynn, you can either order $250 worth of IOD or you can order $250 worth of paint, right? But whatever it is that you are doing or selling, you need to be behind it 100%. Right. And you've got to take advantage of social media. That is huge. We would not be where we are today if it weren't for that drive to learn Instagram and connect our name, L&J Goods, with everything that we put out there. We have to.
Absolutely.
You have to, agree. Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Great words of advice. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people, I don't know, like, I don't know if they're afraid of social media or if it's just, they like, cause I always say to, I have a membership group and I always say, don't start and then ghost them, because I feel like a lot of businesses like will be out there like gangbusters. And then all of a sudden it's like crickets. It's like, no, just be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people want to see you show up. I think the other thing that really helped us is it wasn't just all pretty posts. Like, we were willing to like show behind the scenes. We were willing to show where we messed up. People want to see and get to know who's behind that business. They want to know who you are and why. People will buy from who they know, who they like, and who they trust. And so every post doesn't have to have tags to products that they can buy on your website. Everything doesn't have to be a pretty picture that says this dresser is for sale. It can be you spilling your paint on the floor and how you know what I mean?
I know.
Really, that is what people want, because it makes them feel like, okay, they get it. Like, they're not perfect. They're not, they're not just some unachievable like outcome. We're real people too. And I started out my live one day last week. Okay, you guys, you know what? Megan and I literally just had a big fight about
oh my gosh,
XYZ. and I'm standing my ground.
You were funny.
And to be honest with you, I don't even remember what it was about now, but we and it was, not a serious thing, not a serious fight, but she had an opinion and I had an opinion, and we were just like back and forth about it, and like, oh,
that's awesome.
So
I love it.
We're real people. We're real people. Yeah,
we are. I know. And, just talking about that too, like when I am at the Goodwill bins or I'm out thrifting, and like the other day, all of a sudden a lady is next to me picking, and all of a sudden she like turns her head and she looks up and then she's like, Sonnet? Oh my God. And I'm like, and I literally jump because I was like, yeah, because sometimes I forget, I forget like that they know me.
I forget that too. It's like, I know that they watch, but then when people like walk in and they're like, oh my God, it's usually, okay, I'm walking in the back door. I've just had like a terrible cold and I had to run into town for something, no makeup and feeling awful. And then there's somebody right there like, oh my gosh, we drove all the way from Ohio to come and see you. I'm so excited. Can we take a selfie? Sure. But I kind of, and it's like, you're out there, people recognize you, but then it's hard to get your head around the fact that, oh, people recognize me because I got my face plastered all over social media, right?
I know, right? I know. And I'm like, oh yeah. But it's just funny because then I'm like, I'm just and when they say, you're a celebrity, I watch you on TV. And I'm like, well,
you're TV.
You're TV, but I'm really not on TV,
Yeah, but then when it's like, but you're watching on your TV, but you have no idea how to hit that subscribe button from your TV.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Well, and I think like just having to help my mom do the subscribe button thing. And I'm just like, and my mother-in-law too. And I'm like, just so you know, you're not charged for this. Okay. There's no fee.
Exactly. I know. I'm like, oh, we don't dare, like, oh, I didn't even know how to make a comment. I was like, do you like put the app on your phone? Oh my goodness. I couldn't do that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you look at, I mean, our typical age demographic is,
Yeah.
could be a little technically challenged. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, it's so easy. It's easy. But I'm like, if my mom can do it, you can too, But and now my mom's like, yeah, it was so easy. I'm like, Mom, initially when
You
I
need
told
your
you that,
mom on camera to show them how to do it, right?
yeah, that's funny. I should have her on, but I know because she has her own little, her business as well. I want to interview her like this on a podcast, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could." And I'm like, "It's taped, Mom. I can edit out all the things." I'm like, "Don't
Exactly.
worry." And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I was thinking too about another thing about small business, is always having that willingness to shift and change.
mhm,
You need to.
ready to pivot. I know.
Absolutely. That's so critical.
I agree
Or
100%.
you're going to go down with a sinking ship,
Right. Yes, because you have to. You have to be. Yes, absolutely. I'm thinking now how I continue to pivot and do things different, and like,
Yeah.
like nothing stays the same, and you have to be willing to roll with technology and
And a really interesting thing that, from PBA that I pulled from that is, and it just it made such an impact on me, is, you have to look very realistically at your business and look at those numbers. And while we have multiple income streams, let's look at, where are you making your money? And that's where you need to really focus your energy. Just like when we were having 2 jobs that we were juggling, right? I'm thinking about my real job, and then I got to think about, what paint am I going to order? All of that stuff. You cannot serve so many masters. So I don't do custom furniture anymore. And I'm even looking now, Sonnet, we did a big thing. Megan and I went to the market in Dallas to do our Christmas shopping. And do you know, we canceled every order.
You did?
We did.
Wow.
We did.
Why? What happened?
Because I was feeling in my gut,
Yeah.
I was becoming something that I wasn't.
Right.
The very thing that I am passionate about and that I teach and that I want to mentor to people is about reusing and repurposing and DIY. And what was I doing? Filling my shop with imported stuff that people can go to Home Goods and buy. And I was feeling more and more uncomfortable with that. And so we had a meeting when we got back from the Painters Business Academy. And of course I was a little resistant, though. Even though I was feeling those feelings, I was willing to ignore those gut feelings. And I said, well, let's look at the orders, and then we'll edit them down and just bring in less. And Megan said, Mom, how about if we don't get any of it? And my husband is like, I agree.
Your husband kills me.
And so we did. And we thought, let's really call back to the thing that we most love to do. The very thing that we love to do is thrifting and and going to flea markets and finding those vintage. I love that. We can't do it to the extent that we used to, but that's okay. Let that part be what it is in the front of the shop, and the painted pieces and the stuff that we do in that way. And, we'll have those few gift items, but not, not, so it's going to be a challenge. It'll be a real challenge at the holiday time to make the shop ready for Christmas and do it in a really unique and wonderful way. And I think that people are maybe shifting more toward that versus all of the feeling like I have to have $5,000 worth of ornaments to decorate my tree so that it looks like this that was in the showroom, right?
Yes. Because that's a lot of overhead for you too. I mean,
it's a lot of overhead. Sure it is. Yeah. So now I feel good about it, and I feel challenged about it, and I'm excited.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. Because that's too, that's my mission, or I always say, I am always looking at, repurposing and saving an item and, upcycling it and keep things out of our landfill because there's too much goes in there.
Absolutely. So we're expanding the DIY section of our store even more and setting up big tables, because the other thing is we are feeling an incredible call to bring women together, especially that little bit of younger generation that didn't have what I had. My mom always had ladies around the dining room table, and they were creating and making and doing and making crafts and doing all that stuff. And, it was more about them gathering together than it was about what they made. And I think that people like my daughter's ages and my son's age, like that under 40, are missing that. They don't even know that they're missing it.
Right. I agree. Look at our analytics, and none of them go out and look for anything well, they're not following us is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. But so we want to start just having some of those creative gatherings, family and friends time, to just be in the store and make something simple, try something new, try that inlay, right? And see what happens. So I'm very excited. We used to do so many workshops. And so I'm not thinking of it as much as a workshop, but just as a time for people, a time for ladies especially to get together and create together.
That's awesome. I love it. So when are you kicking this off?
Well, we've already done a few. We've done a few, and it's been fun. It's really been fun. So we're looking toward the end of September. We'll probably do a first one. So
that's great. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, well, that's why I decided to do something like the retreat. It's a much bigger scale than a little gathering, but
yes, exactly.
But yes, that's exactly it. I just wanted to bring a bunch of people together.
And we found too that, those creative retreats that we've done, I started back in August of 4 years ago. What happened at those retreats with the women that came was so much more than what they created. And I absolutely love bringing them together, and you're going to love it. You're going to find it. You'll do another one. You'll do another, and it's going to be awesome.
Right.
I'm excited. We've got a Christmas camp coming where we're doing an L&J Goods Christmas camp the first weekend in November, and we're just doing Christmas projects. And so it's just going to be, it's so cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're attending my retreat too.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
I know like people like it's so funny the attendees they're already like, "Oh, should we rebook like where we're staying for next year?" I'm like, let me get through one and
No, you will have your groupies, I promise.
No, I do, and they're all like, "Blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, "It's fine, guys. We'll let's just get through one and just
Yeah,
make
I
sure
know.
everything
I
goes
know.
smooth."
I
But
know. Oh,
yeah,
it's
so
gonna
I'm
be
really excited.
awesome.
So
It's gonna be awesome. I can't
yeah,
wait. I'm so excited to meet you in person
I know.
and
I was like, this is actually the first time we've actually talked versus like emailing and stuff. So I was
I
like,
know. Yeah, I think it'll be okay,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it'll be fine. I, yeah. I'm like, well, and I watched you on TV or on TV.
See?
Yeah, I know. But I've watched you before, and so I'm like, I even like you more now after chatting today.
Oh, so
So I
sweet. Oh my
know. I feel
goodness.
like we have so much in common,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
um,
think it's those of us who do what we do, it's always a kick to have conversations like this with each other because
yeah,
nobody gets it other than those of us that do it, right?
I
So
know.
so it's
Like,
always fun.
yes, everything that you were saying, I can totally relate, and it's just everything. So it's awesome. But
Yeah.
yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I also want to ask you, or like, where can my viewers find you? You're on YouTube, right? You're on Facebook. Where
YouTube,
else?
Facebook, Instagram, and all you
Okay.
got to do is search for Ellen J. Goods. There's no
Okay.
other one.
Nope. I'm sure. Oh, but yeah. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I just wanted everybody to, officially meet you and know that you are going to be at my creative retreat this
Mhm,
October.
mhm.
We are down to the single digits. So I'm super
Oh,
excited. So
great.
I think we might fill up. I am very, very excited about that.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you I am so excited because I know there's some ladies that are coming that have been to our retreats here in New York State.
oh,
So, and they're just so excited to come to your place and
yeah.
get together. Yeah.
Yes, and the Antique Acres,
Yeah.
where we're
Yeah.
having it is just beautiful.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes, it is beautiful. The grounds, the barn was built by the Amish, and it's absolutely
Oh,
breathtaking. So, and plus, if you like picking, the vendors inside, I'm gonna have you'll be able to pre-shop, so
will we be able to ship
ship.
our
Yeah,
things?
yeah, I will have my scale and all that stuff ready to ship.
Because
I know.
if there's a
Yes.
barn full of stuff.
Yes, yes. So I will bring boxes and all the shipping supplies.
Perfect.
I will be prepared. So
Perfect.
yes, everything will be able to be shipped. So
Good,
yes, I am
good.
definitely prepared. So,
Oh,
well, thank you so much for
thank
being
you,
part of my
Sonnet.
podcast. I appreciate it. And I love that my viewers just had the opportunity now to officially meet you and just see truly how talented you are. So, you guys, in next week's episode, I am going to be talking about my creative network group. I do open it up twice a year, and I do receive so many questions in between. And I just want to talk about what the group is about and answer all those questions. Since in September, I am officially opening it up, and it will then be closed to until 2025. So, if you guys are listening on any of the podcast platforms, definitely don't forget to hit that subscribe button, rate and review. We just don't want you to miss out on an episode. And then you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Sonnets Garden Blooms, where I post a lot of other content over there. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Hi.